Hello, and welcome back to USBR Guest Cybersecurity Tips. I'm Theo, here to help you break down cybersecurity news, hacks, and however, today I'm interviewing Zoogs. Zoogs, Deux. We've interviewed Zoogs before, and some stuff has happened, and Zoogs agreed to come back and tell us all about it. We recorded the interview in an open Discord voice channel with video while monitoring chat and text-to-speech. We do have text-to-speech turned off at the moment, but we'll turn it on throughout the interview, and we'll keep an eye on chat for any questions. Zoogs was kind enough to go through some questions in advance. We're going to talk about them at length, see if we can go off on some tangents. Please send any questions to me in a DM in Discord, a whisper on Twitch, or in the chat, and me or a model pick it up. So, Zoogs, when we last left Zoogs, he was just finishing college, working as a security consultant at an MSSP, and had no certs and only one cat. Where are you now, Zoogs?
Where am I now? Well, I finished college. I got my bachelor's in cybersecurity and a minor in computer science and a minor in math.
Whoa!
Still no certs. Still trash. And I have 2 cats now.
You have 2 cats now.
I don't know how. I truly do not know how I ended up at the second one, but here we are.
Go through your what you studied again, and what did you graduate with?
Yeah, so I got my bachelor's in cybersecurity from my state college. I am in the Midwest. Most of you know where I'm exactly, but we'll keep it to Midwest for right now. It was a pretty okay program. Nice thing about us is we have NSA and FBI field offices here, so we have a pretty decent forensics community. So that's pretty well integrated with the program. And then I got a minor in comp sci and math because they were 2 extra classes to do. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty impressive, honestly. Midwest is the closest we're getting to your location, unless you know Zoog more personally. How old are you? Are you comfortable telling us that?
Yeah, man. I'm 23.
Good for you.
24 this year. Yep. Things are starting to hurt. Being adult is not super fun.
Well, that's what we were talking.
Taxes this year. That sucked.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we were talking about that briefly while I was getting everything set up. About not about everything hurting, but about taking care of your body and exercising and all that.
Yes.
So I had a friend who's a personal trainer and has offered their services to me, and I am regretting my decision. I can barely walk up and down the stairs.
That's how you know it's working.
I know, but
I mean, in the end of the day, right? It's just here I come with another hot simplification. It's just how much can you exhaust your muscles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the rebuild of it is actually getting fit. Yep. So, yeah, you'll suffer less later.
Yep, I agree, and that's exactly why I'm doing it. I mean, I'm in pain. I'm not in pain. My muscles hurt, and that's good. That's a good feeling. But I still look like a decrepit old man trying to walk up and down stairs. So, previous jobs. I can't remember if we talked about this. I think we were on a fair amount of tangents the last time that we talked. So,
well, I love to yap. And I can't stay on a topic for very long.
Do you remember where we recorded the last one?
Where we recorded it?
Yeah.
Okay, we recorded it here.
We were in Discord. Do you remember anything else about it?
Oh my god, that was that Minecraft one.
Yeah,
you kept telling me to move my head so it looked like I was talking, and that I could not. I physically could not move
Yeah.
my mouse and speak at the same time.
We've never gone back to that format. Thank you thank you for putting that to bed.
I'm glad to be the test dummy and the proof that it doesn't work. I think I went and built my name into the side of a mountain.
You did?
Like 2 hours after that. Yeah.
Nori.
The big Zoogs sign. Yeah.
Nori, that's our world. Nori, is that still there?
If someone griefed the Zoog sign, I will be at your front door.
I can't
within
remember.
30 minutes.
It's been a while since I've been in there. No, I'm gonna get a scutcheon now from Nori because I haven't been in there, but I can't remember if the last time I saw the sign. No, I know it's still being paid for. I'm waiting for my bill, Nori. I mean, is Zoog's sign still there? Okay.
Yeah, the important things.
The important thing. See, I'm already sidetracked. Okay. It's there.
Yeah,
it's still
we
there.
did.
Okay.
Did the Minecraft last time. Let's see what else. I was still a security consultant.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I was about 2 years into the industry. At that point, I had done 3 or 4 months as an intern doing security automation, and then I jumped over to the consultancy after. There we had our whole shtick, right, is that we were an Azure shop, so we would, we did a lot of large businesses, but like the original thing was like medium-sized businesses want to move into cloud. We'll get your O365 set up. We'll get all your security posture like pretty solid. We'll get you all migrated, and then we'll monitor, work your alerts, do all that after. And then the other side of that was pen testing, mostly for compliance sake. I was their pen tester because we trying to think of what the best way to say this is. The people that were originally pen testing for us were busy, and they're like, this guy can probably do it, and I was like, yippee. And I just kind of went for it, and I kept doing those for a while, and then that job was not great for a handful of reasons, and I left finally as of August of last year.
Congratulations and good for you.
Thank you.
Before we move on from the previous place, though, what did you learn?
Ooh, what did I learn?
No, there's a lot of bad, and you go through a lot of pain learning. But I mean, you're a smart guy, so like, what did you learn?
Yeah. So let me kind of level set, right? With the job was not good for a lot of reasons. However, I will say 2 major things, and this is pretty applicable. I've got kind of a pocket rant, right, for people that want to get into cybersecurity that I'll talk about later. But the 2 really good things about working A as a consultant and B within a smaller business is A, social skills are not a super prevalent thing in our industry. And I'm not saying social skills as in every hacker's awkward, which, we tend to be introverts, but that's not like something across the board that I'd make the case for.
Mm-hmm.
But we aren't taught business language, and that matters a lot because in the end of the day, we are not a profit building role, right? We don't bring companies money unless you are a consultant at an MSSP.
Mm-hmm.
In every other role, we work in risk reduction. We work in reducing the amount of potential loss of revenue, right? So you have to sell it like that. And I think working as a consultant helps you do that, because while it's easy for me to tell you, hey man, like, we should probably be using MFA, and like we should definitely be scanning our applications for at least some baseline vulnerabilities, and it'd be good if we like check to make sure that our vendors aren't storing all of our client credentials on like, an S3 bucket or something like that,
which happens.
Trust me, it does. And while I'm not going to give specifics, I've seen everything that I just listed, right? So while it's easy and even for people not in cybersecurity that are just generally technical, it's easier to make that justification. It's not as easy when you're talking to the people that do bring in profit to the industry. And so it's good to know, I don't want to say know your place, right? Because that's a bad way of saying it, but more like it's good to know where you fit into an organization. And I don't think that's something that by default is really taught, because it doesn't make that much sense to teach. And it's also not really something you can teach.
It's almost like you need to practice it a bit.
Exactly. And it really comes down to, like, in the end of the day, and I'm gonna try and keep this as jargonless as possible, because I don't like using the business jargon for it, but there are stakeholders in everything you do, right? There's stakeholders for every resource.
Yep.
And it matters to your position, and it matters to your overall posture to be able to explain to stakeholders the risk that they're taking on, and to be able to both qualify that in a way where they know, you know, this could be really bad. And there's, like, you know, generally I think most people at this point get it's bad to be hacked, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to quantify that and say, okay, we need to take a real good look on how much that this one application we have is bringing us in. If this were down for X amount of time, you'd lose this amount of money. Now, let's say that this hack didn't take it down, but what if we had to regress 2 or 3 weeks into a rollback because we had some incident and we weren't able to figure out what exactly they did? Well, now we've lost 3 full weeks of data. If we have persistence in our client data, then that's a huge amount of money.
That's
right?
quantifiable.
And a huge loss of, exactly, a huge loss of relationships. And even now that I'm not a consultant, I'm doing that a lot. I mean, that, like, a considerable amount, I'm still having these conversations. And it is one of the things that kind of sets me apart from some of the other analysts that I work with.
Yep. Let's talk about it a little bit more. But first, it'd be terrible if, and thank Jess. Jess, thank you for your resub. Thank you for popping in chat and saying hello. Zoogs, you better say hello to Jess, or she's going to have to kick your ass.
I don't want that. Hi, Jess.
So
Zoog reminds me of Matt Pat. That's crazy. Matt Pat's the GOAT. I will take that in stride.
So, yeah, there is something like you have good you have good communication. Not you, but like people understand have good communication skills. I think amongst each other. I think we understand
exactly
the cybersecurity lingo and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, you're right. And some people are naturally good at talking to bosses. I was talking to my boss today, and I did not sound good today. But yeah. My point is that it's a skill that you can practice. So I tell people as much as possible to go to meetups, meet people. You know, you're not talking to a boss, but you're talking to someone else, and you exercise that muscle. So I truly think that's important. You need to exercise that muscle of talking to, you know, how do you communicate to your boss or stakeholders. I mean, a lot of times, sometimes it's not just a boss. Sometimes it's an owner of a company, and you are a cost center. Exactly. So you need to know how to communicate. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, without a doubt, I think you really can boil it down to, right, it's the stakeholders. Everybody owns some part of each resource, quote unquote, right? There's the people that actually own it, and then there's the people that own it in the business sense. But you get what I mean there. Yeah, I think that it's just it's something too that, like, I've noticed there's kind of 2 types of people that are generally pretty good at talking like to non-technical people. And I'm definitely the latter of these 2. The first is the ones that, like, understand business lingo and can talk in that, like, very corporate-y sense. I'm terrible at that, but I just have a ton of unearned confidence, and so I just talk anyways.
But are you bad at all the jargon? I don't think you're bad about communicating that this is costing money or this is saving money.
I'm definitely bad at the jargon side of it. And I think that,
in my opinion, I think any boss understands costs money or saves money.
Go ahead.
turned down the wrong one, of course. There you go. So I'm back up. Spotify's down now.
We're breaking the third wall.
Yes, Daddy.
Professional streamer, yes.
Third wall is also not the phrase, it's fourth wall.
So Barcode, I hope that helps. We turned that down.
Yeah, I think in the end of the day, communication is communication, right?
Yep.
It definitely helps for some people to get across the business lingo side, but I also, and the reason that I even brought this up is, I feel like that kind of presents a situation where people take that as cybersecurity talking over them, or like in kind of a holier than thou context, which is really objectively easy to do.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
It's not hard for us to do that because we're the people that say, guys, this is like bad, right? Like here's all these technical reasons why this is bad. Here's all this money it could cost you, and you guys aren't fixing it. Why aren't you guys fixing it? Because a lot of the time, while we are on the remediation side, a good chunk of the industry is more focused on detection, and then remediation's passed off to like sysadmins, tech people, but not necessarily security people, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of the killer with that. Is if you use the kind of business specific jargon, it's very easy for us. It'd be easy for me to go out and be like, well, these stakeholders for this, office application are costing the company X amount of money, and to just kind of keep going in with that, and why haven't you fixed it, instead of kind of baselining a little bit better.
Yep. That makes sense. All right. Moving on. Okay, before we move on to the new joint, what other previous jobs have you had?
Like before cyber?
Yeah. You don't got to go in depth with them. Just rattle them off. For whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah. I was a line cook. I was a grill cook. I did to-goes, served. I did construction. Did concrete. I managed a pizza place. A lot of random side jobs. Did like data entry for a summer. Selling random stuff. Yeah, I really didn't do anything tech oriented until actually I do I like to make jokes about this sometimes. I literally did not have like a working computer until I was 19. Like I had like some shitty laptops as a kid, but like I built my first PC when I was a freshman in college.
19.
I didn't really do technical stuff in high school.
And you're 26 now?
I'm 23.
23.
I was 18 or 19, yeah, one of the two. But yeah, that's when I built my first PC. I kind of chose cybersecurity on a whim. I was originally wanting to do law, and I didn't want to do pre-law, so I decided to do cybersecurity as like an undergrad because my dad's a developer. I've always been relatively technical, even though I wasn't that into tech. But like I was like building cars, and I've always taken stuff apart and put it back together. And I like figuring out how things work. And so I just kind of chose cybersecurity on a whim, realized I hated writing papers and really didn't like doing school, and just kind of thugged it out. And now I'm here. Good
for you. That's a fast arc, if you ask me. But good for you. Okay, so, Barcode Taurus, I got your information there. Okay, so the question you asked real quick was if someone should go into being a consultant for CS.
What was the 5 best pieces of advice? Okay.
CS
I can rattle these off.
Computer science?
I think he's just saying like tech as a whole, right? My first thing I'd say, honest, this is a little bit of a doomer take, so I'm sorry to preface.
A what take?
A doomer take.
Doomer. Okay, like, I'm expanding my vocabulary. Continue.
The tech market's bad, and the tech market has been getting worse, and I do not think it's going to get much better. And a lot of it's by design, right? So we can see kind of the same thing happened with developers a little bit earlier than cybersecurity, in that if we look at like the early 2000s to like mid 2010s, right? Developers were still getting paid a ton. There's a lot of venture capital behind them, and that's when you really had this big like the quote unquote programmer push, right? Like everyone's making $300,000. They got all these benefits. They're blah blah blah. There's a reason why the industry started to peddle boot camp courses and like try and get everybody into the industry. And it's not because they necessarily wanted more developers. It's because they want to saturate the market so they don't have to do that. It's a hell of a lot easier for companies to have a giant pool of potential employees that they can rotate through and they don't necessarily need really strong retention on than it is to have a smaller pool of really well-paid people. Because that makes them competitive, and companies don't necessarily want competition for the people they're hiring, right? Mm-hmm. It just makes things harder. Cybersecurity took the same arc very strongly. I think I probably beat it like 6 months. I think if I like had started working in cybersecurity 6 months later, I would have had a hell of a time getting to a job.
Okay.
It's not great. I mean, now with the amount of layoff, and that's another thing too, kind of back to us being a risk-based position. We're the first on the chopping board a lot of the time for that reason, right? It's actually the reason I didn't stay at the first company I worked at, is because they went on a hiring freeze for all non-revenue building positions. So they could avoid layoffs, which they did, and I think they're still on that hiring freeze like 3 years later, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's just we don't bring profit. Because we work in risk aversion and risk reduction. And so that kind of combination of like, we have a saturated job market, a downturning economy, and we're not necessarily a profit building position makes us in even a worse spot than a lot of developer positions. Because now you have a lot of people that are very talented that got laid off. You have a market of like a really saturated market of both brand new people and a lot of seniors. And so that's why you're now seeing senior jobs disappearing and you have junior jobs opening that want senior level experience. It's because they can, right? This isn't like I promise this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a very product by design thing. And so I'm not saying don't get into cybersecurity, right? I really think if you enjoy this, you should do it. And if you love tearing apart tech and understanding how things work, this is a great industry for you. But if you're getting in this because someone told you that it's a pretty good, stable way to get a job, it's just not true. And that mentality is kind of what led to this point in the industry. And I want to clarify, I am not blaming people that got into cybersecurity for a job. We are all out here to pay the bills. Yeah. This is completely over our heads. This is kind of a product of design.
Yep. Okay, so what's your advice?
So my number one piece of advice is don't, unless you love it. My number two piece of advice is if you love it, then really love it, right? Yeah. Like the one problem I have with a lot of people that I work with is that they're not that technical, and where they are that technical, it's very operational specific. They know how to do cybersecurity. They don't know why we do cybersecurity or how these machines work. I enjoy working with pen testers and red teamers more, even while I'm in a blue team role, because they have a fundamental understanding of how things work. Because as I always describe it, being a hacker is being the world's shittiest reverse engineer, right? Like we tear things apart, we figure out how they work, and we try and put them back together in some way that we like a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So
probably diversification of your abilities would probably be a good idea as well.
Well, diversification of abilities is definitely, yeah, that's another thing that just kind of sucks about being in cybersecurity is like, developers need to know one framework and how to do like one application or the one thing that they're doing, and they typically need to know how to do that pretty well, right? Cybersecurity, you're going to be put in a position where you need to know all of it. You need to know how to code better than you need to know how to code better than the developers. You need to know systems architecture better than the sysadmins, because you cannot defend something or attack something without understanding how it works.
Yep. That's why that foundational networking, foundational coding, dev is so important. Yeah. And people try to skip over that. And yeah, I agree with you.
Barcode, Black Hats don't know more. I will go into that later.
I mean, we could just touch on it. Like you can buy those things off the shelf now. So easy. Yeah.
And you're always looking for the lowest common denominator. There's a very common saying in blue team security. It's like blue team always has to be right, and the black hats have to be right once, right?
Yep.
And so, and even as like I would generally consider most industry pen testers and red teamers are going to be significantly better than the good bulk of cyber criminals out there. And I'm putting like financial cyber criminals. I'm not talking about like nation state kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because, everything is a time versus resources equals reward argument. And no one has more resources than countries. So.
Yep.
But yeah, so, number one, don't do it. Number two, if you're going to do it, really do it. I think the third one that can be summarized, I would just say those two. Honestly, I think that really like to do well in this industry, you need to have two major things. You need to have kind of a cautious approach to it, and you need to have a very true interest and passion, or you're just going to burn out or get into some low-level SOC position until you burn out and then switch into like an engineering or administration role, which is where I see most people that come into cybersecurity going, honestly. SOC lifers are crazy. I don't understand them. They scare me.
I don't know. Pure would be able to shed more light on that.
I'm terrified of him.
But yeah, I think there's something to say about like I think there's a different level of camaraderie in a SOC.
I agree.
Yeah. So
it's the teamwork aspect of it is always really cool. I'm in a SOC now. But yeah, it's a like you have to have a passion for incident response or forensics or just be an absolute machine that likes doing the same thing day in, day out. I go a little crazy all the time. SOC is SOC, and it's a security operations center. It is your front line for security. They're the ones that ingest alerts and incidents and triage them initially.
All right. What coding language, scripting languages do you know?
I mean, I don't know many well, but I know a lot of them.
Well, let's go with what you know well then.
Well, it's Python, right? Like I write 90% of things on Python, Bash, or PowerShell. I know a decent amount of C. I'm pretty okay at x86, 64 assembly. I know some MIPS assembly as well. I know some Go, Java, JavaScript. I know like some backend like database stuff, SQL, MySQL, NoSQL. Just kind of whatever's needed in the moment, right? Once again, the cybersecurity thing is like you need to know kind of how everything works. And I don't think choice of language matters. I think generally it's best for people to learn C because the same thing you'll hear like low-level coding on YouTube go into all the time is it's like it is, unless you're writing assembly, it is the lowest level that you will ever interact with a machine, and that's going to teach you a lot about how machines work.
I've heard that.
Now, saying that, I don't like writing in C, so I rarely do. But I can read it and I can like understand it, and I can write it if I ever need to. But I mostly write stuff in Python that's just quick and shitty, and then I've been learning Go because it's pretty useful for a lot of red team stuff.
I'm thinking about Go as my next one too. So
I got some good books on it for you.
All right. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm making people read now.
That sounds terrible. Oh. It sounds awful.
Yeah.
And your text editor of choice. There's only one correct answer. There's other suitable ones, and then there's the Voldemort of text editors.
So
and I don't want to alarm you, but uttering the Voldemort of text editors will end the interview.
What's the Voldemort? Emacs?
No.
Yeah, I don't use Emacs.
Emacs is acceptable.
If I'm like sitting down and coding, I'm either using NeoVim or I'm using Visual Studio.
Okay, gang, that was it. That's the end of the interview. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate Zoogs' time. I will not have that filth uttered on the Twitch channel or the podcast.
In my defense. in my defense, it breaks on me half the time, and I don't even really use it well. But I use tiling desktops, and so it's easier to have like the terminal tile than VS Code.
It's a complete joke. I've never used NeoVim. I have no basis to my claim other than everyone on the internet has a hot take, and mine is NeoVim. And I think honestly, the fact that I have no experience with it, like, it tracks with how the internet behaves.
Yeah, there's two people, right? There's people that hate NeoVim because they haven't used it. Well, I guess three people. There's people that hate NeoVim that haven't used it. There's the people that hate NeoVim that have used it, and then there's the people that like NeoVim and they're just kind of lying to themselves, but they feel really cool doing it. I'm the third.
Okay.
But Nano, like day-to-day stuff, if I just need to like mess with a file, I'm just gonna use Nano because it's easy and quick and launches, easy. And I don't have any plugins installed on it, so. Yeah,
smart. Dirty Gremlin, thanks for the follow. A Pinnock Gamer, I didn't thank you. Thank you in chat, but thank you for the sub. Okay. We talked about education level. Okay, so now let's talk about the current role. Yeah.
So,
where are you at now? Back in a SOC.
I'm at a SOC at a very, very large company. And doing the corporate thing. We are a 24/7 SOC. It's been okay. I came to this company not because I love Blue Team or because I, love a SOC, but because the woman that taught me everything I know works there, A, and B, because they have a full-time internal red team.
Okay.
I am gunning to move to that red team.
Good for you. Before we move on, I want to shine a light on something that's important that people need to, if you're watching this, like, how do I get in, or what's something I can do? Take from what Zoogs said was that they knew someone in a role, and
I am such a nepo baby.
But that's not.
Oh no! Like legit, I am, and I will say
that's not nepotism. You're not related to. No, you're not related.
I don't care. It is. I am an industry nepo baby, and that does not mean that I do not kick fucking ass at my job.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah.
Well, every foot in the door I have gotten is because I knew someone, and that's another really important thing, especially with how the industry is right now. Your credentials do not matter.
Yeah. Well,
you can have a baller.
I wouldn't say they don't matter. You're right.
They're still not going to get you a call back.
Right.
And but I can prove that they matter for HR requirements because I got hired as a senior analyst and then knocked down to a mid-level because my years of experience.
So, Barcode Taurus, network is everything in general. Yes, but I don't think of it as just networking and checking the box and saying that you have a friend on LinkedIn. Like, get to know people. Think of it like professional relationship building, because the next question I'm going to ask Zoogs is, how long did you know this person before you started working there?
Oh, like 4 years. She taught me literally everything I know.
Right. So, and that's my point. Like, there's a relationship that's built there. They got to know you. You got to know them. They helped you. Like, it's more than just networking, gripping and grin, telling someone your name and wow, long seminar today, that kind of shit. Like, it needs to be more than that.
I mean, your LinkedIn followers aren't going to do shit.
No.
Most states, if you are in the U.S., have a local DEF CON group. Find them. They're all pretty cool. Ours is Baller here, where I'm at. And it's actually how I know most of the industry around my city and state. They have definitely helped me get roles.
Good.
To say the least.
Yep.
Go to your conferences, go meet people. And because in the end of the thing too, right, it's not this completely selfish, like, I'm doing this to get roles. You're probably going to learn something and something pretty cool, because there will always be someone that knows something more than how you know it. And if you kind of position yourself like I do, of like I don't know too many things super in depth, but I know a ton of things as a whole. That's really useful to have, is because basically any hobby or something I have, I know someone that's better than me to text and go ask questions and be like, hey, why am I so stupid? Right.
Yep.
Like,
I did that today. I need help with something, and I'm leaning on someone. I've known for a while, and yeah. Yep.
Yeah, build that now. In the end of the day, right, we're literally all in this together.
Yep.
Not in a kumbaya.
No one's getting out of here alive, Zoogs.
Yeah, this industry more than most.
No one's getting out of here alive.
God, yeah.
So
yeah, I'm in the SOC. It's going okay. I don't like being in a SOC, but my whole goal is getting into the red team, and so I'm just speed running that. The way that we're structured is we have like an IR position, kind of incident response position above the SOC, and so I've started working with them pretty quickly, which has definitely saved me a little bit, because if I was just alert fodder, I would be in a corner painting on the walls, saying another high is popped in ES.
Which is another piece of advice we give, is that once you do get that initial role, you need to be looking at the next step. Don't if you are getting an entry level role, don't get stuck in an entry level role. Talk to your managers, talk to whoever you can about what's needed to get to the next step, what's needed to get over to here, over to there, that kind of thing.
And I will say, like, management definitely matters a lot, right? If you get into a role and you have a pretty bad manager, then you need to find a way to circumvent that. But by majority, at least in my experience, most managers are generally on your side. But remember, that does not necessarily mean the company is, right? Regardless, like, I'm kind of the worst at saying this at the same time, because I'm very guilty of this, is like, don't kill yourself for a job, right? Don't let a company run your life. And I'm very guilty of this because I did it at my last company, and I do it a little bit here. But remember, at the end of the day, like, your company doesn't really care that much about you. That's kind of my earlier thing, is there's a lot of replacements available. So be good. Entrench your feet, make it hard to get rid of you, and try and make the moves you can, but don't like sacrifice yourself or your morals to do so. I really hate, our industry has a lot of like really strong kind of grind culture to it, and that kind of comes with that like tech bro-esque thing that like followed up with like, oh, this guaranteed job, go make a ton of money, you just got to work hard, know everything. That's a bad way to look at anything, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You should work hard because you love something or because you're interested in something. You should not work hard because you're looking for some kind of praise for a faceless organization.
Yeah. Do it because of your principles. But you also, it's a balance, and you got to take care of yourself. You do.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, go learn. Like, this stuff's a lot of work, and to get good at it, it's going to be a lot of work. And to get good at it fast, it's going to be a ton of work, and you are going to make sacrifices. But you should be making those sacrifices for yourself, right? Not for some company.
Yep. Agree. So we talked about the job market.
Yeah.
Now, did you already do your pocket rant about cybersecurity? I feel like you did.
I have so many pocket rants, Theo. I love to stand on my soapbox. I have so many more.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, pocket rant about cybersecurity. Where do I even start? I'll actually take another one off of your list there.
Okay, there you go.
Employers' expectations in your current role.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Because I'd actually like to kind of talk about the contrast between my two roles, because I think it's really important to make this distinction. And it's a little bit why I also said, sorry, I'm like half looking. My two cats are fighting again. Hey, pick something else. They're like trying to kill each other 80% of the day. The other 20% they're sleeping.
You gotta take care of them? It's no problem.
No, it's fine. I'm kind of hoping one of them wins so I can stop dealing with it. But so far they seem to be pretty evenly matched.
Yeah.
The smaller one's a lot faster. So anyways, so like an important distinction on expectations and hours worked and that stuff. My last job, I probably worked less total hours than my current job. But every hour of that was very like, I'm on the bleeding edge. We're going to die. Like, I am hooked and chained up to the asteroid. I have a mouth, or I have no mouth. I must scream. Like, just like, That's something that happens in small companies, right? You don't have the backing. And what makes that really good is I learned a ton in a very short time period.
Yep.
At my current job, which is a gigantic company, once again, like I'm not going to drop where I work, but in the industry we're in like the top 5, like top 10 in the world.
Very cool.
So, I don't know, whatever. I'm not seeing the top 10 money, but
not yet. Give it time.
Compared to a small company, I have resources and I have backing. But even now in this giant organization where we have a ton of teams, like there's a lot of places where my knowledge is not matched anywhere. Like Azure specifically, because I worked at an Azure shop, no one can touch me in this organization on my Azure knowledge. And I mean like out of developers, out of engineers, out of security, out of the architects, no one like has that totality and knowledge that I do because they've all been in these segmented roles. I had to learn how everything worked in totality. And because we're selling another service that we don't own, I had to learn on how I could improve that service enough that they wouldn't just hire their own Azure architect and set it up. Right. And so I learned all the hacky things and I learned how Azure like really works.
How did you?
I learned how,
Yeah. What did you all like? If you could like,
yeah,
quick,
dude.
like, yeah, don't deep dive, but like, what have you set up? What have you done in Azure? What have you set up? What have you done?
Well, I mean, I've set up tons of environments from complete scratch at like various sizes of companies. I've built out like giant amounts of analytic rules and alerting. I built out like custom repositories before this was offered so we could maintain all of our alert rules across all these tenants without having to go and manually update them. I built custom logic apps that would bring in threat intelligence information. I built other automations that would like auto update from a SharePoint file so you could like designate VPN IP ranges or admin accounts for alert enrichment. I pulled apart. So here's the thing about Azure is just a bunch of REST APIs. Like that is all it is, all across the board. Most of the Microsoft O365 stack is this, except the sorry, got distracted by cats again.
Fine. I know what an API is. Thank you, Spectre.
Most of the O365 stack is just these REST APIs with like an Electron front end, even the desktop apps. And the desktop apps work in the same way as what they like publish in their documentation, right? So if I use like Azure CLI to interact with Office 365, it's basically the same way that Teams interacts with it. So what makes this really cool is if I'm in the Azure portal and I'm like, hey, there's this data blob that's like, so for example, Entra did this for a long time. Entra is Microsoft's Active Directory like cloud solution. It used to be known as Azure Active Directory. They have a last login time on accounts there, right? So standard log retention is 90 days. And this isn't stored in the logs that you're able to pull through the basic log explorer. So now here's our issue. If I'm doing like a hygiene assessment and I want to pull what's our oldest users that we might be able to get rid of that haven't logged in or interacted at all, right? I'm limited to, okay, well, these guys have logged in from 90 days and these guys have logged in sometime longer ago than those 90 days. And I have no idea what. But there was this random field on the Entra like GUI that showed like the last login time, and it would go back years. I mean, it would go back to whatever it was. So I pop into Dev Console and I look at the API requests that come in when I refresh the page, and I find this beta API that has a storage bucket that I can just pull, right? And so then I just write a really quick HTTP request with my authorization header and make it look like I'm a user, and I just pull that back directly. I don't have to web scrape. I don't have to do anything. I'll just pull that back. It returns it in JSON because all the web page is doing is taking that JSON and making it pretty and easy to read.
Wow.
So then if I go feed that into a custom log, look at this. I now have a full hygiene of all of our users in the environment that is not offered from Microsoft, and you didn't have to change your log retention, and it's super low volume. It's going to cost you like 3 more cents a month.
Wow.
That's the like understand how things work kind of mentality that I think is so beneficial.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that kind of stuff. So like my last company was really rough to work at. but I got to learn cool stuff like that. And because you have to figure it out of necessity. I don't have to do that anymore. I probably work longer
you can
hours
if you,
overall.
if something comes up.
Well, if something comes up, but normally now there's red tape, right? Like if I had to go pull something like that, well, the SOC isn't necessarily going to run an assessment like that. That's going to be like our insider risk teams or like our fraud teams, right? Or something like that does like the full security assessments. Like SOC can provide recommendations, but really we're an incident response role, right? We are focused on the response and generating alerts. We're different stakeholders, right? Where at my last role, I was global admin in these tenants, and I just like did stuff, right? Because I'm constantly trying to provide this value. So while I worked less hours doing that, I'm way more exhausted. And because everything is like, I have to create some value out of nothing to make this work, you just burnt at the end of the day.
Sure.
Now I work longer hours, and I still get the burn, and I get the alert fatigue, but the expectations are different. And the reason I work longer hours is because we're a 24/7 SOC. It's just fundamentally different, right? So those expectations matter. And kind of the general cybersecurity point I was going to make with this is like, the reason I really started to die at my last job is while I found the Azure stuff I was doing and tearing that stuff apart and pen testing fascinating, that was me doing the extra work for me. When that part was removed and I was still having to provide value, but I wasn't doing anything interesting, I was just making more reports than I did normally and working more alerts than I did normally. Now I'm working extra hours and I'm putting an extra effort for the company that is not returning that effort to me in any way.
Okay.
Those are two very, very different things. And I think it's really hard for people that are new to the industry to make that distinction. It was hard for me, and I had been in for a little bit at that point.
I'm waiting until you see the message. There we go. Hi, Kay. Huge Kay fan, and thank you, Kay, for all the advice and help and
Yes, my friend that taught me everything I know, Chad. That's the one.
There's a clip, an old, oh my God, 4 years now? Oh my God, maybe 5 years old. I was learning how to do Bandit, and Kay started hacking away on the box that I was working on.
Yeah, she did that to me too. She was way nicer when she was helping you, though.
It was...
She was so mean.
It was like a magic trick. It blew my tiny mind. Not much larger than it is now. Blew my mind. Very cool. Okay, thank you for stopping by. Ragano's in here now. Good to see you, Ragano. Agree. Understanding how things works is beneficial in most walks of life. Agree, 100%. And Tagora, Hack the Planet. Good to see you too, sir.
Also, John, I do use Arch. I am, in fact, sweaty, and my machine is broken all the time.
Hilarious. Let's do a sleeper question. Do you have one that you want to pull from? I have one that I want to ask everyone.
I read them through.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one that I want, and you can pick one next. What's your favorite Arizona tall boy flavor?
I am a ginseng and honey OG.
Okay.
They are the best things ever. Now that they make the alcoholic versions.
They do make alcoholic Arizona staff. Yeah.
Being an adult is that I can get drunk and drink an Arizona iced tea.
Wait, did they put fake sugar in those ones, or they use real sugar?
The honey ones are still it's still just the real honey. The other ones are kind of
that's awesome.
And they sell them in like multi-packs, so you only really get like 4 good drinks, but
yeah,
the ginseng and honey are delicious.
That's cool. Yep, that's cool. So like I can go for like a sweet tea myself, or a fruit punch. Mango's good too. But a sweet tea on a hot day, man, that hits the spot. And if you can find the place that's selling them like 2 for $1, because they'll do that around here. Like Walgreens does it. There's a couple convenience stores that do it too. Their shelves, like if you don't get there early enough, their shelves are obliterated. But
I'm more of a, for like the real sweet ones, I'm more of a peace tea fan. I was big on peace teas in high school.
Okay.
And like the snowberry peace tea is a wonderful. I don't generally like very sweet things.
Mm-hmm.
That will be, if I ever get diabetes, it'll be because of that.
The reason why I bring up Arizona is because it's wild to me that they still keep that tea 99 cents when everything else has gone up. And I purposely won't buy from like the gas stations that mark that shit up from there. Like, I'm like, nope. I know what you're trying to do here. No, I'm not drinking. Yeah, I'm still on my fast. I'm still on a no sugar, no added sugar, and no alcohol through Lent. Because I'm afraid that I'm going to hell if I don't abstain from something during Lent.
Man, I'll see you there. It'll be fun.
Chocolate tea. They do. Oh, you must have been talking about the alcohol ones. If you tell them they're selling it for a higher, they'll pull it from their stores.
Oh yeah. If you like email Arizona, they'll get really mad about it.
Nice.
I think they'll like sell them up to like $1.30 or $1.40.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what I've seen. Okay. Do you have a sleeper question you want to answer, or are you gonna?
I'm gonna switch it up. I'm asking you first.
Oh shit.
If you had a time machine, would you go to the past or the future, and what era or moment intrigues you the most?
So, I wasn't expecting you to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, I got to look at it again. If you had a time machine, you go to the past or the future. In what specific era? Okay, so look.
I just want to point out that the hacker out of the two of us, the one that's actually paid to be a hacker, did not expect a basic countermeasure.
Maybe I did, and I'm just hamming it up for the audience.
This is all scripted. Everything I said,
So good job. I'm not gonna. You know what? If I was if I was in my 20s again, with a little bit of perspective, I might say back in time. But with how much me and my family, like, there's no time machine that I can go back in time and still have like the same wife, kids, and life. Do you know what I mean? Like,
or are we saying reverting in our own lives, or just like get on the magic school bus and go see the dinosaurs?
No, so like me and my wife, she won't watch time travel movies with me because like I like Back to the Future, like time travel movies, but have you ever seen the movie Primer? Like,
no, I'm like infamously known that I've seen nothing.
Okay, not you. I mean, if you have spare time, Primer is like time travel on steroids. It is like it's ridiculous. Like, there's alternate timelines, like different versions of you show up. Like it's like, anyways, my point is like, what's my point? My point is like, if we're gonna say it an alternate timeline, like you get an alternate timeline if you go back. I'm not doing that. I'm so grateful for the life that I have. There's some things that I regret doing, but I've learned from those things and moved on. So like, I'm not going back. But ahead in time, I would like to pull a what was the dude from Back to the Future? Biff. And he stole he went in the time machine and he got the
almanac. Yeah.
That's what I would do. I'd go.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I took a dive there on you. Sorry, Zooks.
You're good. I mean, the very easy answer for how you were framing that of like going back in your own life is, how old's your youngest kid?
She's 11.
Cool. Go back 8 years and buy Bitcoin. You wouldn't have had to do that much. You could have still had the kids and the wife.
Yeah, no, I forget how old I am. See, now I'm thinking in real time about the answer that I gave. I'm fine with the answer I gave.
You know, that was very inspirational, but I feel like we're not most effectively using our scenario here.
My time travel options just got not code reviewed, but
yeah, you could have gone back like
I could have gone back 2 years and made some money on Bitcoin.
You wouldn't have had to do that much.
Yeah.
Could have pulled out like a second mortgage, dumped that in Nvidia, and sold like last month.
Yeah, really. Good one. Okay, what else are we talking about? I think we hit on all the normal stuff. Like we already got into like relationship, professional relationship building, which is what I like to do. Oh, let's talk about out of your comfort zone. That's always a good one.
Getting out of your comfort zone. Oh, I'm so ready for this. This is like my favorite rant to go on.
So like in my opinion, like, I genuinely don't think that. I think you learn the most when you're outside of your comfort zone. You have to be vulnerable. You have to, you are being vulnerable. You're asking questions, or you're learning, and that's vulnerable, and that's the most awkward. You're out of your comfort zone when you're like that. So what's your take on that?
I'm gonna take this on two sides. I'm gonna take this on a weirdly philosophical angle, and then I'm gonna take this on the technical side. On the weirdly philosophical angle, you are constantly living in the past, right? Like it's just how life is. You are nothing but your memories. And the first time you ever do something is going to be the most that you remember it, right? It's why days seem to fade away once we get into a routine of doing something. It's why,
whoa, I didn't know.
When you're in school,
I didn't realize how philosophical you were going to get, but go ahead.
No, it is like.
And we got to get to a question chaos. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, like the first time you do anything is gonna be the best you remember it, and that is effectively how you live the longest life, regardless of anything else. You can be 103 years old and have done the same thing for 60 years, and you can die at 70 and have done a different thing every day. And in the experience of the person at 70 is going to have lived longer, because your brain's it has a limited capacity, right? You will forget things. Neural pathways will stop being formed. The more different things you can do are important. Now, on the cyber angle, that neural pathways argument agrees again. It's actually why this is a weird tangent. It's why DEI initiatives are so effective when they're actually done properly. Like not like a pandering, like we're a good progressive company.
Just plainly stated, just different, multiple, varying viewpoints. Period.
Yeah, it has been proven time and time again to lead to profit growth.
Agree.
Like across the board. Yeah. It very, very rarely fails when implemented in a way that isn't just pandering.
Yeah.
So that also applies for cybersecurity, right? Not just DEI initiatives, but just learning.
Yeah, and chat, we're not going deep on a DEI thing. That's not what that is. We'll all, and if I'm reiterating this wrong, correct me, Zoogs. This is multiple different perspectives and viewpoints.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of your standpoint on blah blah blah, this is fair, this ain't fair, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
Flat out, it does build profit.
No.
Being in an echo chamber is bad for business.
Agree.
Period. It's
good
been proven.
Good for some of the people in charge. But
yeah, it's always
bring it back. Bring it.
Not have a dissenting opinion.
Bringing it back. Bringing it back
to nerd shit. It's super useful to know a bunch of different things. It is actually, I think, a very strong reason why I've been relatively successful in my career for how short it's been. I've been in the industry for less than 4 years. I have had, two. I'm not technically a senior by title, but for all intents and purposes, I think Kay can agree to this. I am a senior in this role as well. I was a senior at my last role. And it's not because I'm necessarily that good at anything, but it's because I know a lot of different things. And it kind of goes back to that earlier thing I did where I was like, we're talking about Wi-Fi hacking. In the end of the day, it's all radios, and you should look at it like radios. And why I haven't been in tech that long, right? Like, as I said before, I built my first PC when I was like 18 or 19. I didn't really care as a kid. But as a kid, I built cars and I took things apart and I figured out how things work and I worked in construction. I did like plumbing and like all these different things. That still applies. I still just love taking shit apart. That whole Azure rant I went on was just me taking apart Azure and just figuring out what's a neat thing I can do with it, right?
Before they figured out how much money you were wasting. Yes, continue.
Yeah, that too, right? But like,
not you were wasting. That can get away from you if you don't. Yeah, if you don't keep an eye on it quickly.
It makes sense to learn as much as you can about as many topics as possible, right? I am a security analyst. I have a focus in offensive security, and my goal is to do offensive security. Outside of that, I build electronics, I build cars, I play guitar, I read a lot of philosophy, I am really into fitness, like all of these little things, and they all matter. Like I am constantly able to abstract things that I haven't done to things that I have done, because I am constantly trying to get out of my comfort zone and learn as many different things as possible, even when they're not tech related. It's easy for me to say, this is why your Wi-Fi stuff is having problems, because radios are radios, right? Because I can abstract this to what I know about like sub-gigahertz conflicts and like the problems you'll get with like NFC readers if they're too close to each other. And it's easy for me to say, everything's a computer because I've worked on like HVAC systems when I worked maintenance, and like in the end of the day, it's just an embedded controller that's just a computer, right? It's not that different. Or like your router, it's just a computer with multiple network interfaces, right? At the end of the day, they're all the same. Being able to abstract from something that you know a lot about or you know how it works to something you don't know how it works is essential for understanding how anything works. And I think that it very strongly shortens the learning curve that's going to be so prevalent in cybersecurity. It's why I think that, while I hate writing C, you should go learn C and you should learn how the computer works, right? And it's why I say hacking is being the world's shittiest reverse engineer. Tear it apart, figure it out, go learn all the stuff, right?
Yep.
It's nice to prioritize things, right? Like I could definitely do better at that when it comes to learning stuff, but that kind of comes down to the individual. Some people are really good at staying on one topic and learning everything about it. I'm not. I'm awful at that. I do a little bit of just chasing the dopamine to a point. I have a side rant on chasing the dopamine and ADHD if we have time.
Then
yeah, it's just really let me just really quick summarize. I'm sorry.
No.
It's really important to just go and try and learn stuff. If you get the tiniest inkling of this might be cool, go learn about it.
Yep.
And if you don't like it, you've lost nothing.
Yep. Especially when you're younger. I mean, do it always, but especially when you're younger, when you have just a little bit of a safety net to try all kinds of different things till you find the thing that you're like really good at and you're passionate about. Like, yeah, that helps a lot. It helps a lot. It helps better than waiting till you're 40 years old to go back to school for cybersecurity.
You're doing it.
That's right.
You went and learned the things.
Right on.
Right? You learned how things work.
Yep.
I will say, I was thinking about this earlier today. From our last interview to now, I think when we were in our last interview, I probably had some ways on you in terms of pen testing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that if you and me went 1-for-1, you'd smoke me. No, I 100% think it's true.
What I'm finding,
and you're constantly learning.
Yeah, man. What I'm finding is that my gaps in basic, this is why I talk about it. My gaps in basic networking is coming back to haunt me. But I'm going to get real good at it quickly here now.
You'll learn how it works, and then it'll make sense, right?
Yep.
It's one of kind of the nice things about what you and I both did is like I was already into pen testing, but I got kind of shoved into a role, so I had to learn how to do the things before I learned how they worked.
Yep.
Now that I've spent the time to go back and learn how they work, it's just cemented a lot better.
Yep. I agree with that.
Yeah, and because you were going for the industry, you kind of had to do the same thing. So it all works out. Yeah. But that's the importance, right? Just keep learning. Go do the stuff. That's why I'm saying you'd smoke me. Like you've done the work, you've put in the effort, you've done the things. I haven't.
Well, thank you for those. Thank you for those kind words. Yeah, I always feel like I'm behind and I got to work on some more. So thank you for that.
Wow, that's always a good place to keep yourself, right? That'll just drive you. Depends on how much you're motivated by spite. I'm very so.
Okay, thank you for those kind words. Having and Kay's a lot of the reason why I do these streams, or I show myself trying to learn these things because of how helpful Kay was when I was first starting out. So thank you for that. So Kay wants to know from both of us, what is your coolest cybersecurity related fun fact?
Honestly, my favorite one to say is the one I said earlier, that Azure is nothing but a front end on a bunch of REST APIs.
Okay. So
that applies to most cloud, but Azure specific, like most of the Microsoft business products are like that.
Okay. So I have two. So one that I've been exercising because quickly, my roof needs redone. It's not leaking, but it's old, and we have a lot of the storm chasers that run around, and they're not doing it right now, but the roofers are going around because it's getting warmer and they got to get business. Okay, so usually one of them asks me what I do for a living. So like a cool fun fact is that I do penetration testing for the federal government, and watching their reactions is fun. But the other one is telling people about evil jinx, and Kuba Gretzi calls it jinx. So I know some people call it evil Gen X, but telling them that I can build telling them that I can steal their multi-factor authentication tokens is always fun and gives them a good like step back moment. Pebble, I don't know. I know what you're saying. It's not. Dude, the guy who made it calls it evil jinx. He doesn't call it evil Gen X. So
yeah, but doesn't the guy that call it GIF call it GIF? I don't respect that at all.
Pebble.
You can create it and still be wrong. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
it is, however, evil jinx. I am in agreement with that. Pebble is firmly wrong.
Yeah, no, I'll allow that. If it'll allow, I don't know if it'll come through or not. Whatever. Nothing.
I'm gonna, before I go on my last rant I got in the pocket, let me check chat.
Oh, Ragano wants to ask about your guitars and what you like to play.
Yeah, I've got a handful of them. I like my Fenders a little too much. My first guitar was an Ibanez, like shitty kid guitar. I've still got somewhere.
Do you want to show them? Or no?
Yeah, you know what? Let's do it.
You don't need to turn the camera toward yourself. I totally understand that. But if you want to show the guitars, you can. I
don't honestly care. I'm on video in most of the voice chats anyways. If my webcam works, let's see if we're having an Arch moment or not.
Yeah, so you may have to restart again for Arch.
Yeah, right. All right. Maybe.
Oh, well, I got to fix it.
That's you.
My scuffed, my scuffed stream setup.
I got to try and reach for all of these without moving too much, because I'm on wired headphones. I'll wait till you fix it.
There he is.
We here?
Just about. Yeah, if you want to get going now, yeah, you'll be good. I'll blow you up over here.
All right. Howdy, everyone. All right. So, first one. This is my Fender Player Telecaster Butterscotch, because I'm basic.
Its name is Butterscotch?
No, it's the tone.
Oh, okay.
Right. I do not name my guitars
that we know of.
I don't know why. Yeah, well, you don't want to know what I say when the camera's off. Anyways, this one's really nice. It plays really sick. I got it for a really good price. They're normally like $1,200. I got this for $400.
And that's a Fender?
Sick. Yes, Fender Telecaster. This is like, it's like the NPC of I've been playing guitar for a little bit and I want to get a better one. Also known as the thing that every indie guitarist that is going to gaslight you probably owns.
Okay.
My Gibson Classical's upstairs, so I'm not going to show that off. This is my Hyundai acoustic. As you can see, it's had a little bit of wear. The neck is super warped. I really need to go take it to a real Luther and get it fixed, but I'm cheap. And
that's good, though. That lends authenticity to it. I love that.
It does. It does. It has an immaculate tone. It just really sucks to play. This one is actually my pride and joy. I love this one. I built this myself. This is my Fender Parts Caster.
You built that?
I did. So this is a Squier Stratocaster.
I don't know you could do that.
That I got with a warped neck. So I took a Fender Classic Stratocaster neck, and I fitted it. This was a mistake. Do not do this. I bought modern locking tuners. Those don't fit on the neck by default.
Uh-oh.
By the time I realized that they were two different things, I had already bored out the neck.
Ragano knows his shit. Like, I think you're going to trigger Ragano. Go ahead.
Well, then he's going to be impressed at this part because they're straight still somehow. I bored all these out with a Dremel and sandpaper, and then I had to drill the two little peg holes on all of these.
Okay.
Not a drill press, just, I don't know, freehanding it. So I did that, and then stock 2 pickups in the front. The back is a high-gain Seymour Duncan humbucker. This is modeled after the Kurt Cobain Vandalism Strat. I did not do the stickers on it. I don't really like stickers on guitars. The electronics inside are mostly stock. I put a bigger capacitor, like a little orange cap, for the second tone knob to this because this has a higher output. But it's pretty cool. The nice thing about this is because it's a Squier and it's a piece of shit, this switch only affects these two in all positions except the back, which means that I can't really get a blended tone, which I've learned is kind of sick. Because up here, I have a very, like, kind of tinny, calm, like, I'll call it Radiohead-esque sound. And in the back, it is just every little bit of noise coming off these strings. Super loud, gets nothing from the front two to interrupt. It's got a completely different tone. So it's like having 2 guitars in one, which is awesome.
That's cool.
Also, it's set up perfectly. The guitar nerds will get this. That string height is immaculate, and I have no buzz. I don't know how. I suck at setting up guitars.
Very cool. That's very cool.
Yes.
How many more? How many more do you have?
I have 2 more. I'm not.
Oh my god! So you have 5 total?
I do.
That's whatever. That's cool.
The Ibanez is my buddy has it right now, because it's just kind of the guitar I lend to people that are trying to learn. And then my last one is like another shitty acoustic. It was my roommate's. It's like a $100 Walmart guitar, but it plays weirdly nice, so I do play this one pretty often. In comparison, I don't play too many of these guitars that often anymore. I've been kind of a piece of shit about it.
Guitar acquisition syndrome.
Slowly getting better. Yeah, well, I've stopped myself from buying
GoPro
equipment because I don't play that much right now.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. It's who's got the exact which one do you have, Pebble? It's gonna be the Telecaster. I know it. It is. It's gonna be the Telecaster.
Oh, that's a thing. That's actually a thing. Guitar acquisition syndrome, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. There's one of the cats.
Is there rooting for a terrible team syndrome? What is that called?
It's called being a Bears fan.
The acronym's diarrhea.
Through it most of my life.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think was that the last guitar in here, or not guitar? Last question here. I think so.
Yeah.
Caitlin made a good point. I want to call out real quick.
Please.
She is one of the most senior people at our place of work, and she regularly has imposter syndrome. And do not let I'm missing stuff or lagging behind other people like get to you, tear you down, whatever, right? Just not a fair comparison at all. It's only gonna hurt you.
Don't let what? Can you say that again? Don't let what?
Don't let the. There's my roommate.
What's his name? Whoa! Who's that?
My roommate.
Don't want to say hi? Okay, whatever. That was awesome. He almost got by. I almost missed him.
He did.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. What did you say? Don't let what? It was very. Well, mute. Don't unmute me. What the fuck? Runner. We got a runner.
Going, I can go back upstairs. I was like, just go.
He's fine. Honestly.
I love seeing it 15 seconds later in the Twitch chat on the side. Yeah. Don't let what other people know get to you in any serious way.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
He's going again.
It's like my
laps?
God, it's a blur.
Okay.
So fast.
I'll be there in like an hour. Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah, I hear you. That makes sense. No, it does.
Yeah.
It does. You can't. If you want to compare people to, like, help motivate you, yes, but you can't let it. You can't let it beat you down. You can't let it. You can't let it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, you can't. You're really comparing yourself. You're really like working and racing against yourself. Wait, is that the moonwalk? Is that a moonwalk?
Nori asked for him to moonwalk across the.
Very cool. Yep, good advice. That's great advice.
I got one more pocket rant, and then I swear to God I will stop yapping.
Okay, you're fine.
All right.
Because we got to wrap up soon, anyways. But go ahead.
Okay. I'll try and make it quick.
No.
It's a little bit multifaceted, a little bit just because I want to talk about it because it's been a kick that I've been on for a while, but because I also know that a lot of just in our industry, but also people in this chat are a little neurodivergent, right? We got a lot of ADHD, a little touch of autism, some anxiety, like not the best functioning brains that like to get into hacking stuff as a whole, right? We get a little hyperfixated. We really like our one topics, that kind of thing. Two major kind of things with this. The thing I said earlier about chasing the dopamine, right? It's very impactful. If you're interested in something, ride that hyperfixation out, right? Just go for it. It's going to benefit you, even if it's not super useful. Caveat of that. There's a lot of really cheap and easy dopamine, right? And this is coming, like, I got my experience in this, right? Drinking, drugs, TikTok, fucking social media, YouTube Shorts, all those things.
Yeah, there's drugs and then there's it is a drug. Yeah.
I mean, it's all this. I'm not talking shit on like doing or not doing. Live your life, do whatever, stay healthy where you can. My point with this is though, the one thing that I've really had to force myself to do is, while chase the dopamine, I think is really good in theory for a lot of things. It also leads into like this mindless consumerism that I think is really prevalent with people with ADHD, because every time we have a hobby, I mean, you can see behind me, right? I got my 3D printer. There's like 2 boxes of security cameras. Got a random 80s stereo, Lego plants. I just showed you my guitars.
Yep.
All of these things.
Oh no. Nori.
All of these. All of these things.
You can't pick up a cat and not tell us the name, Zoogs, and then you can get back to ranting.
This is Squid William Fancy Pants. He was named that because when I got him, his name was Usher, and I thought that was stupid. He has never had a thought in his pretty little life. He also just doesn't really care what you do. He's just happy to be there.
Wow. I wouldn't know.
He's just kind of hanging out. You know, this is just the vibes.
I want a cat like that.
You do and you don't. It's nice to have a cat that just doesn't really care, but at the same time, they're still cats, so they're still kind of shitheads, and he doesn't get scared of anything. And that's kind of a problem when I need him to be scared of something.
Okay, that makes sense.
This one makes me more angry than the other one, but like stuff like this is kind of cool to do because he just doesn't care. Like he's purring right now. I don't think chat can hear it, but he is like totally fine with what's going on.
Yeah, I'm exiting this way, Dad.
Yeah, he chose which way he was going. And the funny thing is he will be back underneath my desk in about 45 seconds. And he's back. He did not lick.
Nice.
So anyway, all right,
sorry, I interrupted the rant.
It's okay. I picked up the cat. I did this to myself. It's easy for us to just pop up on Amazon and go buy the things and go do this and detract from the thing that might be more beneficial to us. Yes, having hobbies is really good. And I think for people with ADHD, it's one of the places that we can shine, and that in a normal context, I don't think people can, in our varied interest, in the fact that we can go and pick up things really quickly because we have this like dedicated hyper focus to it, right? ADHD, to really simplify, it's not an attention deficit disorder, it's a dopamine deficiency, right? And so the things that give us dopamine are like it's our hobbies, it's cheap sources, it's stimulation, right? Because we don't have that baseline that other people do. That leads you into a lot of pitfalls, right? It's great to go chase the dopamine, but if you have this kind of drive and purpose to it, it's easy to get sidetracked by that too. And I think with, like social, I really don't want to do like the whole get off social media, it's terrible for you thing. But I think for people with ADHD, it is actually like one of the worst things you can do. It's even now that I've been on this kick for a while, right? Like I deleted everything from my phone. I use mostly e-ink devices because it's a lot harder to like get hyper fixated on them. It also makes me read more, which is cool. So I've got that one as my handheld, and I've got like a tablet as well for taking notes and stuff like that. Those help, but like I can't really get rid of YouTube because I use YouTube still so much, and I still end up on shorts or just doom scrolling, or I'm like, why is my algorithm, like I'm sitting there trying to find a video for forever and forever just for like mindless consumption, right? And it's hard to break away from that, but it's really important. And the word I like to use for it is, and I also don't like it because it gets kind of co-opted by different like health sciences industries, but it's mindfully living, right? It's doing things with intention. Sometimes it makes sense for us to make our lives more inconvenient, so the things that we do matter more. It's the idea, and you see this in people without ADHD too, right? People that go and buy vinyls, right? Or CDs, or they like have offline media players, or people that still buy and rip Blu-rays and things like that. You're adding a level of like a human factor, a labor of love to it that makes it more impactful. And I think that's a really good way to approach the things that you're learning in cybersecurity as well. In that you should be doing this because you have an interest and a passion in it. And when it's not giving you the dopamine you want, I don't think necessarily that the best option is to pivot to something that gives you more. I think it's to remove the other ways. It's hard for people without ADHD or neurodivergency to be bored nowadays. And it is a skill to learn how to be bored. And it's really important to learn that skill again, because it honestly helps you reclaim a good chunk of your life. And I think this is more prevalent for younger people, right? I'm 23. I was born in 2001. I lived a good chunk of my life without like immediate access to tech, but my entire like teenage years to high school, right? We have iPhones, we have smartphones, we got social medias, right? Instagram, TikTok, Vine, whatever, right? And so a good chunk of my life was spent like that. And I think that the younger you go, it's only harder and harder to be able to remove yourself from that. This has been something I've been working on actively since like October. It was right around the time I started this new job, because I was like, I'm not doing offensive security anymore. And on top of this job, I'm also doing a lot of different shit on the side. And so if I'm gonna like be able to learn anything and get to this place I want to go, I have to make sacrifices and prioritize. And I'm not gonna sacrifice fitness again because while it does probably take up the most amount of my time outside of work, it also helps a lot when I'm studying. Like being physically fit and like being generally healthy has huge impacts on your focus and huge impacts on like your mental retention and just how well you're able to process things. And that's why it is honestly really important to prioritize that and to focus on that, even if you're detracting from some of these other things that you might think are more important in the short term, right? I could easily say I'm not going to go to the gym anymore. I'm going to do home workouts during my day, whatever, right? And I could be kind of fit from doing that, you know, like it'd be less effective. And I'm only going to work on my OSCP. But I know myself, and I know that after about 3 weeks of doing that, every single day I get off work, I'm gonna feel like shit. I'm gonna have a stomach ache, and my body's gonna hurt. I'm gonna be like, I don't want to work on an OSCP. I'm gonna go watch YouTube shorts for like hours until you have to force yourself to stop doing it, right? And so, kind of the bridge to my whole point with this, right, is it's both beneficial to leverage the ways that your brain works differently, but it's also important to know the deficiencies of that. There was kind of a kick around like 2019 on TikTok and social medias about that whole chase the dopamine thing and just really feed into your hobbies. It's cool if you just wake up one day and you want to learn how to knit, but then 2 weeks later when you're sitting there staring at the needles and a scarf that you did 2 inches of, that's not like you just wasted your money and you're adding to that mindless consumption kind of thing to it.
Yep.
And so it's just go learn the things, go put yourself out of your comfort zone, but you need to stay in scope. And it's important to make sure that you're regulating yourself and finding that scope, or you're going to just end off in the same spot with more stuff. And I don't think that's almost ever beneficial. It is actually really tough to fix it. It's a massive pain to learn how to be bored. And it's a massive pain to maintain it because everything around you wants to detract you from that. Everything around you wants to captivate your attention because the system we live in, your attention is profit, right? You are the product. We talk about privacy on the stream a lot, right? Theo talks about it all the time. It's how the internet works. Fundamentally, the internet runs off ads. All media consumption runs off advertisements because captivating your attention matters, right? In the end of the day, advertisements are effective.
It's the way of all things. But before, when it was on the TV and cable, you could go to the bathroom and work on some food and come back by the time the commercial's over. It just doesn't work like that anymore. The device, and I'm going to jump into it, but the devices are designed to keep you engaged, and now more than ever, TikTok X has got my number. They do. And I have to also like put it down, turn it off, purposefully put it away, or I could be there all day.
Yeah. It's easy to do, right? And I'm not saying go and buy e-readers, right? I'm not saying go buy any ink device. Another device is not going to solve your problem. I promise.
No.
And I promise because I'm the most guilty.
It's a muscle, just like anything. It's a self-control muscle, just like anything else. You got to exercise it, and you got to figure out how it works and how to regulate it.
Yeah. Period. And it's important to stay regulating that. And I think that and here's my tie-in on why this matters to cybersecurity. In our industry that is getting increasingly competitive and increasingly harder to break into, you have to have such a dedication to be good at it. Now, that's not across the board. You're going to work with a lot of people that you are like, how the hell did you get this position? Like, how do you... there's people I work with that I swear to God, I could give a square peg in a round hole and it would take up their week. Okay? and I'm not saying this as like I'm some kind of genius whiz kid. I'm not, right? I know what I'm doing in my career because I worked at it, but it's not like I woke up one day and I'm like, I'm locked in. I'm Elliot Alderson, right? I am Mr. Robot. I got this. It's something I worked at, and it's something that I had to keep interest in. And I still battle with, like, especially lately, it's so hard to make myself do offensive security stuff. Because I don't have a profit reason for it. I don't have a financial purpose, right? Not that I think everything should be about finances, but in the end of the day, right? I'm not gonna harp on you about like wanting to go make money.
Right.
You know, it's something important. You need it to survive. Is my audio still coming through good?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. My monitor just dipped and came back.
Yep, I got you.
Arch things. But I think that you'll find, and you'll actually find more of the kind of tech minimalist people are people that are in tech because of this reason. It's become a pretty large push with like kids in CS in college right now. That's actually where I kind of heard about it originally and like started to deep dive on it. And then, you know, the irony in it is like, well, I'm just watching videos on tech minimalism, and like getting devices and doing that. So there's no clear path to any of this, right? And I am not, you know, your psychologist. I'm not your therapist. I'm not going to tell you this is what you need to do to get it right. I'm only speaking from my experience as someone who's pretty young in a senior role. I have like a couple years left of being the youngest person at every job I work. Right? that thought isn't lost on me. That's my I'm getting old thought is I'm like, oh shit, like I've got maybe like a year or two before I'm no longer the youngest person everywhere I go.
Well, at least you're shining a light on it. I'm like, and again, I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing this with everyone that's watching too. That you know, these are things that you struggle with, and I think a lot of people struggle with it. So you know, I can appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Fix it. I just never watched. You 14 has ADHD. 17. Yeah. I mean, it's in high school. I was glued to social media, like in my phone all the time. I mean, this is like a very recent kick that I've been on, but in high school and early, and honestly, this is on my old job. I probably wouldn't be where I am without my old job, because since I didn't have this mentality of forcing myself to be bored and prioritizing these things, I had the priority of I need to pay the bills and I need to be good at my job to a certain degree, right? So I was forced to go and learn all these things very quickly and figure out how to do these things. It's very sink or swim. I probably wouldn't be there without that. I could have been like if I had the mentality I do now, I probably could have done the same thing. But at the time when I was young, no. And I'm saying younger loosely, right? This was like a year and a half ago. But
right.
When you're young, things change quickly, right? That fact isn't lost on me. And there's not really a good solution to it. I don't think that it's something as a parent either that you can really force on kids. I had pretty strict parents growing up. It definitely abated to me being a little bit more of a shitbag hacker than I could have been. So that worked out. But I think with how easy that consumption is, it has to be something that intrinsically comes from someone else, or from yourself.
Yep.
I don't think that there's another way around it.
Makes sense.
I don't think that someone can read a book and just know how this works. It's Riley from Minus Tech Tips. That's awesome.
I'll turn back on TTS here for the end, but if anyone has any questions, please rattle them off. Just write in chat. We're getting towards the end of the interview here, and I want to make sure that everyone's had a chance to ask a question or whatever that they may have. So,
God, I can yap an hour 50. Why do you bring me back, man?
I know. Jeez, oh man.
God, I can talk.
Part of it, a lot of it was just you ranting. I didn't even need a list of questions for you to answer.
Yeah, it's better for the world that I don't.
We'll go that Don't worry about that NeoVim thing. We'll go back and we'll scrub that out. No one will ever hear that. Barcode Taurus. I'm not sure. I think that's Zoogs that you
one sub right
you gave
now,
it to. Yeah.
So, thank you. Yeah, I did not pull out my wallet in the middle of this, so I appreciate that. Always a fan of supporting.
Pebble was asking, missed the start. Where did he work before, and what's your current position, right quick?
Yep. Now? Yeah. I'll really quickly. Yeah. I started in security automation as an intern. I moved to an MSSP while I was still in college. I worked as a security consultant there. That was kind of my sink or swim. Now I work at a, megalodon large company in their security operations center. And yes, I am standing, GoPro.
I should have been standing this whole time myself.
Yeah, I started standing right when I turned my camera on because I was like, they do not need to see me hunched over like a gremlin.
And now I'm going to stand up because I feel like you just called me a gremlin.
The TLDR of Zoogs rant lock-in. Yes, but lock in for yourself. Do not lock in because you are trying to be some kind of corporate weapon or speedrun an executive role. Matter of fact, you're probably not going to get it, right? Like, knowing the good people, I'm not saying don't chase your dreams. Try and move to the best thing that you possibly can. But the fact of the matter is that things aren't fair, right? You can be the hardest working person ever and stay in a mid to low level position your entire life. You could also be a lazy piece of shit and have a rich parent and now own Tesla. So
dude, we were so close. We were so close.
We weren't that close. I have been seeding little jabs in this entire podcast.
You're fine. Ragano's on the other side. He's on the other side. Across the pond, they're all wondering, wow, how come they can't see the flames from the burning landscape in America?
Well, it's because we push it real deep down. We're really good at pretending like things are okay. Especially in the Midwest. It's kind of like what we're known for. Oh, they're fighting again. See? And I'm just going to ignore that.
Kay wants to know your social security number, mother's maiden name, credit card numbers, CCV, and
she acts like she doesn't already have all this information. I mean, like, we work at the same place. She actually probably has more access to my information than I do. Thin desk at a treadmill. Interesting thing about that. I don't know if like birds are fighting. That was loud. I tried doing the whole like walking while I work thing. It doesn't work. It's not super effective for me. Yeah, things are kind of messed up everywhere. That's the nature of the system. How long till AI takes?
Not soon enough. My God.
Do you have an AI rant? Do you have one in the pocket?
Look. Much like any new technology that's come out, if you don't learn how to use it or learn how to augment yourself with it, then I think plainly that you could soon see yourself replaced by it. I mean, there's certain marketers. Good.
Most levels as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to. I'm gonna keep myself from going on the privacy problem or the waste problem, or like how effective it is. But I am already seeing a reduction of knowledge from it. Yeah. And I think in our industry, this is a really important thing because one of the things I think I'm pretty consistent on, and I think I'm pretty consistent because I think I've said it about 15 times already, and I'm gonna say it a 16th. You need to know how things work.
Yep.
You need to know how things work. Last time we did this podcast, I went on a whole rant about how you should learn to code because you need to know how to code.
Yeah, we did.
I hate the idea of like getting to cyber. You don't need to know how to code.
You should know.
That's stupid. That's wrong. You should know and it's not even you should know how to code so you can go and code and automate your life.
Right.
You should know how to code because it is how things work.
Yeah, and you don't need to know like. Come on, like you don't need to be so proficient at it that you have like projects, but you should know how to code. Yeah.
Yeah, you just need to know how things work, and I think with AI already, it is a easier way. It's just an easier route, and I think that for some people it may I used AIs, right? Like,
yeah, me too.
I will toss in a chat GPT if I don't know like a PowerShell, and I don't necessarily look up each little module.
The difference is you how does this work? Or I need this, but then you're like, your next step is, okay, well, why do I need this? Or ChatGPT, why does this work? Or whatever. Like copying and pasting out of that thing is bad for us. Like not you and me, us humans.
Yeah.
Copying and pasting, I think, is bad news. You need to supplement this thing. You need to pre-prompt it with when you explain something to me, deep dive on it. If it's a code,
scientific research papers flagging for being 80% written by ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's a problem.
How is that benefiting us? And the other thing, AI takes a ton of data to train on, right? A ton. Where we got it to now is training on basically every piece of data since the internet started.
Yep.
Okay? If we are now generating the data from AIs, and that's getting scraped and fed back into AIs, right? Like, if it took us all the data of the internet to get to the mediocre level we are now, do you really think it's going to get that much better?
Yeah. I guess I didn't think about that, but yeah, really. I mean, if it's going to be the best of us.
Yeah, it's I will never be the person that says don't use a tool. I think that honestly, a lot of like pen testing nowadays, while you should know low level stuff and you should know like how to do assembly and do that stuff and learn how to write C, I think you can be a pretty decent pen tester just knowing how most of the tools in Kali work and like when to use them effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I will never be that person that says don't run a tool, don't like go script your own, right? Because in some cases it just doesn't make sense. But you should know why you're using it, and there's a difference between using it as some sort of, as Kaylin called out, a cognitive crutch, and using it because you're just trying to make something slightly more efficient. Like, you've got a limited time crunch, I just need to really quickly look this up, and Google's not giving me the answers, I'll go throw it at ChatGPT. The latter is a very, very slim number of people. My grandma is like looking stuff up in ChatGPT and then texting me to see if it's right. I'm like, you could have just called me in the first place. Right? Like, it's
good for your grandma, though, for keeping up. Good for her.
I mean, hey, listen, she's a G, all right? I love my grandma, but she's not in tech. Do you know how many tech people are doing this? As Caitlin said, a pen tester at work gave us garbage from ChatGPT that they used for retests on a critical vulnerability, which I think actually almost broke both of us.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just copy and paste out of it. It is such a powerful tool
to doing this.
To do
like a call with
tons of people on all different teams and all different levels of management.
It's such a powerful tool to do research on, to help you understand things. Copying, pasting out of it is the worst thing to do right now with it.
Machine learning is awesome. Neural networks are super cool. If you don't know how they work, 3 Blue, 1 Brown on YouTube does a fantastic video series on it. Watch it. They're awesome. If you have questions, text me. I'd love to talk about it. I've run OCR models to modify PDFs and like move them into Markdown, right? I've done my own like little LLM stints of like trying to figure out how these things work. Gen AI is so popular because Gen AI has the lowest barrier of entry, not because it is the best application of machine learning. Anyone can use Gen AI. It's why it's so popular. Because I don't have to be technical to do it. That does not make it the best. That does not make it even necessarily useful. The whole thing I just talked about with cheap dopamine still applies to like Gen AI.
Yeah,
right?
it does. It does. I found myself. Yep.
Yeah.
Agree. I found myself. Yep.
It's a cheap and easy solution to a problem. That does not make it a good solution. And I think it's really harmful for people that are using it as a crutch or as a way to learn even.
Hold on. Kay's wrinkling my brain here a little bit. So is there any good, Kay, do you see any good use case for?
Caitlin is going to say absolutely not. She hates Gen AI more than I do.
Why does it suck for you for the thing, for things you know about, but Awesomebuff says you don't know about? Oh, okay. No, I get what you're saying there. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
all right. So that's like the trust but verify thing. But yeah,
exactly.
it's going to rely. Yeah, it relies on you to do the additional legwork to verify what it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, like, not every forum post is gold either, right? The number of Stack Overflow posts I've looked at that garbage or like do not apply to the problem, whatever, right? Honestly, most of the time that's when I turn to a Gen AI is I'm like, I have this like specific issue. I have figured out like 80% of it, but I can't find like a clear-cut solution anywhere on the internet. I'll throw it at this and see if maybe there's like something that I bridged over. Fine, right? That's fine. In my opinion, that's, you know what, like that should be your use case. It should be treated with caution. And to go past I'm going to completely breeze over like developers using it and making bad code vulnerabilities and all the other cyber implements with that. If I'm staying on the topic of learners, because that's kind of where my whole tangent started. It is directly harmful for learners. It is directly harmful for learning and is very harmful for people getting into the industry.
Okay.
I wrote most of my papers senior year using ChatGPT because I was lazy and working a full-time job at an MSSP, right? I use this, but I don't know what most of those papers were about, right? I am like clear cut. I wish I knew what I wrote about how biometrics sucked when I wrote that paper, right? Like, I really don't. I took the information, I put it in ChatGPT, and I figured out a way to get past the AI detectors because shit had to get done. That was harmful for me as a learner, right? This is a direct case where I can admit that I should have went and learned those things. It was not beneficial for me to do that.
Yep, I struggle with the same thing. And I find myself pulling, and not verifying the information that I get out of it. So I agree 100%. Yeah. Agree.
Here's my Gen AI rant,
all right,
learning rant, and 2,000 other things. I have so many more tangents to go on.
Well, then that's going to be for another time, man. We're going to have to do this again. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Zoogs, I appreciate you sticking around and chit-chatting with me, and again, being vulnerable and talking about things that are hard, and talking things about yourself too. I appreciate you. Appreciate all that. Thank you. I don't see any other questions. I mean, this is your last chance here, and then I think Zoogs got to get going anyways. But
it's poll day. I got to go hit back. Get it to it, boys.
Yes. Yep. I'm working on it too.
Hell yeah. We love to see it.
Yep.
Stay healthy. Get fit, guys. It's going to benefit you in the long run. Do mobility stuff on a fitness tangent.
Yeah. No.
Bodybuilding sucks.
Agreed.
I power lifted. It's really cool. It is honestly the coolest thing to do ever. Do mobility. Do cardio.
Yep.
Stretch. It is the best.
Speaking as an old person. Yes.
Yes.
Do mobility.
As a young person with terrible joints.
Yep.
Do your mobility. Do your cardio. Stay healthy.
GoPro's on the bike. Great to hear, GoPro.
Hell yeah. I think that's it. Anyone got any last second things for me to rant about, or I will get off my soapbox and give the poor old man a break.
I know. I'm hungry, man. God. My stomach's folding on itself here. All right, Zoogs. Well, I'll let you go. Thank you again kindly. And yeah, absolutely. We got to do this again. So
playing golf doesn't count. Golf courses are a waste of resources. Okay. Bye, guys.
All right,
Thank
good
you
talk.
for everything.
See you, man. Thank you, Zoogs.
Yep.
Spectacular. Great conversation. Awesome. Love the honesty, the open, honest communication from that guy. Appreciate the, again, being vulnerable, being open and honest about what's going on with them, and great conversation all around about, there's so many good gems in there. Really excellent talk.